Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking this evening. A late surge helps Indian equities close in the green for the sixth trading day in a row. The Nifty and the Sensex end at record closing highs. The Nifty already outpaced the 20% gains it made in 2023. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu rules out any American and French proposal for a 21-day ceasefire with Hezbollah, instructed Israeli forces to continue operations with full force, even as the death toll in Lebanon crosses 600 this week. Israel's top army general says they are preparing for a possible ground operation into Lebanon. A three-rate GST structure and exemption of health and life insurance premiums make it to the agenda of the group of ministers on GST rate rationalization, but no decisions are taken yet. Sources say the modalities of merging the 12 and 18% slabs were discussed. Officers have been asked to study the revenue implications of all proposals before the next meeting. The Supreme Court reserves the judgment on petitions filed by Byju's US-based lenders challenging the resolution professionals' decisions to keep them out of the lenders' meet. Directs that no further lenders' meet should be held till the judgment is pronounced. Certain batches of common fever drug, paracetamol, acid reflux drug, Pan-D and diabetes drug, metformin, are on the list of over 50 generic drugs flagged as substandard by the Indian drug regulator, but manufacturers say the batches in question are spurious and were not manufactured by them. Malaysia's IHH Healthcare looks to increase its stake in Fortis Healthcare. Group CEO Prem Kumar Nair hints at hiking the open offer price, adding that he hopes court proceedings will wrap in under a year as most issues with the open offer have been resolved. That's an exclusive. Russia signals a shift in its nuclear policy. President Putin warns that Russia will consider retaliating with nuclear weapons even if it is attacked by a non-nuclear state that's backed by one with nuclear arsenal. Ukrainian Air Force says it shot down 28 of 32 Russian drones and 4 out of 8 missiles during an overnight attack. Amazon's chief technology officer Werner Vogel says the company will not be baited into entering what he called the media race over generative AI, calls large language models like ChatGPT inefficient, bats for more targeted AI spending. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. Well, let's start with the market action of the day. The bulls continue to maintain the winning momentum as the Lal Street entered deep into uncharted territory. The Sensex and the Nifty hitting record highs yet again. This in intraday trade, the Sensex ending with gains of over 650 points, the Nifty 200 points higher. The mid-cap index just about flat but in positive territory, and the Nifty Bank added about 0.5% or so. In fact, the Nifty has gained more than 20% so far this year, and this is higher than the annual gains the Nifty clocked in 2023. All sectoral markets closed with the gains today, but as I just pointed out, mid-caps did underperform. That index barely managing to close in the green. Surabhi joins us now to break down the market action for us. Surabhi, looks like the bulls woke up just in time.
Well, a big last-hour flourish for the Nifty, taking the index now close to 26,200. Couple of factors that led to it. One, of course, was that it was monthly expiry for the Nifty, so we had a wave of buying in a lot of large-cap names. The second factor was global. Global markets were very strong while we were trading, both Europe as well as futures on Wall Street, where Nasdaq futures were rallying as much as 1.5%, thanks to some very optimistic guidance that Micron has put out. So all of it put together worked out to be the perfect recipe for the bulls. So what worked in the market today? Actually, a lot of different segments. Autos were really revved up because, A, we'll get the September sales numbers soon enough. And then, of course, we're moving to the festive season. So that put together led to a whole wave of buying in autos. We had the financial side of the market continue to look solid and strong. The Bank Nifty managed another about 0.5% move. A lot of the non-banks were up and about as well. Metals, anyway, have been one of the best trades of the week, and that continued today as well. So let's look at the individual stock level action then. The Nifty gainers included names like Maruti, Tata Motors, M&M, even others like Bajaj Auto. Then let's look at some more names. Grasim was up and about, Bajaj Finserv, Shriram Finance. You have SBI Life and HDFC Life. That illustrates the point on the non-banks doing very well in trade today as well. Come down the list, and then you get the shine from the metal majors. So Tata Steel, JSW, Hindalco, all these stocks had a very slow start in the morning, but a great finish with plenty of gains to sort of write home about. mid-caps have been underperforming. That's a trend that started earlier this month and it's continuing this week as well. So the mid-cap index, yes, it didn't do as well as the Nifty, but by the end, it recovered a lot from the lows and ended somewhere around the flat line. So the bulls will probably not be too disappointed. The gainers included something like a Vedanta, where the company is considering yet another dividend. 361 had a good day. Easy Trip, which has been slammed hard after promoter selling, that stock came back about 4-5% today. And some of the snack makers were looking very appetizing. Gopal Snacks up and about. Pratap Snacks up 15-16%. And Global Spirits managed to put on 6-7% as well. On the losing side, Kalyan Jewelers, a name that has done extremely well in the last couple of months. Today, there was some profit taking. Crompton was down. And PB Fintech, there's a lot of volatility around the stock as the market awaits more clarity on whether this company indeed will get into the hospital space or not. All things put together, a good day specifically for the large cap side of the market.
All right, so many thanks for joining us. The big global story, Israeli missiles continue to pound Lebanon amidst US and France jointly pushing for a 21-day ceasefire between Tel Aviv and Hezbollah. The Israel government has said that Prime Minister Netanyahu has ruled out the proposal and instead instructed defense forces to continue the fighting with full force. The Israeli military forces claim to have hit 75 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon overnight. According to Lebanese officials, over 620 people have died due to Israeli bombing since the start of the week. Israel's military chief has reportedly told troops that the strikes could pave the way for a possible ground incursion into Lebanon. Iran's foreign minister said that Hezbollah decides for itself and is capable of defending Lebanon.
Lebanon today is victim to an enemy that is using electronic, cyber, sea, and air attacks against us that could turn into a ground attack and set the stage for an all-out regional war. I hope to return to my country armed with your explicit stance, calling for the cessation of this aggression out of respect for the sovereignty and safety of my country.
Hezbollah decides for itself, and it is completely able to defend itself and to defend Lebanon and Lebanese people. Hezbollah has done nothing to violate the resolution. The resolution prevents any manifestation of military presence, which has not happened by Israel.
So in terms of a ground incursion or ground invasion, that's really for the Israelis to speak to. We certainly don't want to see any action taken that could lead to further escalation in the region. We still believe that there is time and space for diplomacy. We want to see a diplomatic resolution and a solution to prevent an all-out war. But in terms of, the Israeli operations, I'd have to refer you to them to speak to that.
Meanwhile, Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry has refused to receive a container carrying the bodies of 88 Palestinians sent from Israel. Authorities in Gaza said the bodies were unidentifiable and called Israel's actions inhumane and criminal. Officials have asked Israel to provide details about their identities. Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a warning to the West, saying that Russia would use its nuclear arsenal if it was struck with conventional missiles by Ukraine. Putin said that Moscow would consider it to be a joint attack if any of the Western nuclear powers supported the missiles that Ukraine used to attack a non-nuclear nation. Putin's comments and threats come on the back of reports that Kyiv was seeking the approval of the US and UK to use long-range Western missiles against Russia. Now, oil prices remain steady after falling in the previous session. This as signs of higher fuel demand and falling inventories in the US offset concerns about demand from China falling. Signs of the return of Libyan oil to the market also weighing on crude prices, so around 72 on crude. The government is considering the inclusion of core inflation number when it releases the monthly inflation data. Sources say economists have urged the Ministry of Statistics to include core inflation in the CPI print. Core inflation is the rate of rise in prices without considering food and fuel prices, which are usually volatile. Sapna is here with more details. Sapna.
Certainly, we are given to understand from sources that the number of options in terms of reading the inflation estimates in a CPI release that may expand in the future. We are given to understand that there could be a debate and discussion within the government circles to basically include a core CPI number, a core inflation number. Now, we are aware of the fact that the Ministry of Statistics has received some suggestions on this front from various economists and forecasters. So there is already pressure from the external world for the government to do the needful. That is one. We are also given to understand that apart from a core inflation number within the CPI release, there could also be one more number without only food inflation. So, vis-a-vis two options which are available right now up front in a CPI release, you may in future have a core inflation number as well as a number without food inflation. So we need to wait and watch and see how this really pans out. Some debate discussion is most likely within the government on this. And there is a lot of background work already on in terms of also the switching of the base year, in the sense the change in the base year for CPI. So, a lot of traction on that front. But these are some suggestions that have come in, and there is some thinking within the government circles on this. We'll have to wait and watch and see at what point in time the future CPI releases will have these additional two options.
All right, Sapna, many thanks. From one exclusive to another, no recommendations have been finalized in the meeting of the group of ministers on the GST rate rationalization. Sources say the group discussed the proposal to merge the 12 and 18% tax slabs, but have asked officers for more details on the possible revenue impact on states. Timsy standing by now with more. Timsy, what are your sources telling you?
Well, that's right. What we are given to understand from sources that the group of ministers panel on GST's rate rationalization has discussed the proposal to move to a three-rate structure. No decision has been finalized as yet. This group has discussed the proposal to merge 12% and 18% slabs, and they've sought detailed revenue analysis on the impact of moving to a three-rate structure. Rather, group of ministers is conscious of protecting the revenue interest of states, and thus, to be precise, opposition-ruled states such as Kerala, Karnataka, West Bengal are currently not in favor of merging the slabs. They rather say that the detailed revenue analysis on this proposal needs to be there in front of the group of ministers for any decision. And to be precise, on food items, the group of ministers in favor of moving the commonly used food items to a one common slab of 5%. Apart from that, group of ministers is keen on GST rate overall framework, where they say that all the current framework of goods and services needs an overhaul, but any changes can come only if the burden on consumers is not enhanced. Rather, they say that they are in favor of hiking rates on goods and services which are rarely used by common man, and they are in favor of hiking rates on goods and services that are of luxury in nature or pose any health hazards. Group of ministers is also in favor of exempting GST on health insurance and life insurance premium, and this move could cost government about 3,500 crore rupees. So group of ministers has now tasked officers to study how to make up this revenue loss of 3,500 crore rupees. The group of ministers is now all set to meet on 19th and 20th of October in Delhi. On 19th, the agenda will be to discuss how to exempt GST on life insurance and health insurance, and on 20th on the other issues of further rates and slabs. Let's see what happens when they meet next.
All right, Timsy, many thanks. Now, the Supreme Court has reserved its judgment on petitions filed by Byju's US-based lenders challenging the resolution professionals' decision to keep them out of the lenders' meeting. The Apex Court has directed that no further lenders' meet should be held till the Supreme Court pronounces its judgment. Ashmit is standing by now to take us through the key observations from the Supreme Court. So where does this now leave the insolvency proceedings, Ashmit?
Well, it's a state of status quo, no moving forward, no moving backward, status quo to be maintained. That's the long and short of today's interim directions from the Apex Court. The Supreme Court decided it was a fit case for grant of this interim relief after there was a repeated claim made by the lenders, the US lenders, that they comprise the majority of the financial lenders. In fact, not just majority, they add up to over 99% of the financial credit in question, and therefore exclusion by the IRP is in fact something that cannot be permitted, is not sustainable with the provisions of the IBC, and therefore cannot be allowed. So the interim relief that has been granted to the US lenders is that the IRP will not hold any further meetings. Status quo has to be maintained until a final judgment is pronounced. That is, of course, the second aspect, the Apex Court reserving its judgment, and reserving its judgment on twin applications by the lenders. On one front, they are challenging the original NCLAT order, which had allowed for closure of insolvency proceedings by allowing that settlement between BCCI and Byju's. The other, of course, is the lenders holding steadfast here before the Apex Court, saying that their claims have been even upheld by the Delaware Supreme Court, that they have clear financial dues which are unavoidable, which haven't been discharged, which haven't been paid, and therefore making a case for inclusion back in the COC. The Supreme Court not giving clarity yet as to when this judgment will be pronounced.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us. Now, cash-strapped airline SpiceJet has cleared pending salaries of employees for the last 3 months. Sources say the salary dispersal of around 80 crore rupees has been pending since June. This comes after the airline raised 3,000 crore rupees through a QIP. Company CEO Ajay Singh had told CNBC TV 18 that the funds raised would be sufficient to support the airline's revival plans. Tata Electronics has signed a deal with Taiwan's Power Chip Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation to set up India's first chip manufacturing plant in Gujarat. PSMC will provide design and construction expertise for the greenfield fab. It will also provide engineering support for the transfer of technologies. The facility will have a production capacity of up to 50,000 wafers per month. Policy Bazaar's parent company PB Fintech could start its own chain of hospitals. This as per sources who say that the insurance aggregator is looking to enter the healthcare space. The company clarified that although aligning the interests of insurers and hospitals would help the consumer, it continues to assess options. However, the news weighed on the stock as investors expect the move to push capital expenditure higher in the short term, coming off its intraday lows and finally closing about 1.5% lower. The Indian drug regulator has declared batches of over 50 generic medicines as substandard in its recently released monthly report. The medicines include commonly used medicines like paracetamol, Pan-D, and even drugs used to cure diabetes and erectile dysfunction. Ekta joins us now with more details. Ekta, this is a monthly review. I'm given to understand what have been the concerns raised by the regulator this time around.
The Central Drug Standard Control Organization, or the CDSCO, in its latest survey has flagged more than 50 drugs used for common conditions as not to be of standard quality. These are commonly used drugs for common conditions ranging from high blood pressure to even acid reflux. The CDSCO, which is responsible for approval of new drugs in clinical trials, has said such drugs are being sold freely in the market. The survey indicates certain batches of more than 50 drugs manufactured by various companies were not to be found of standard quality. These included drugs sold by leading companies such as a specific batch of a reflux drug, Pantocid, or erectile dysfunction drug, Pulmosil, both manufactured by Sun Pharma, or one particular batch of a blood pressure drug, Telma H, manufactured by Glenmark, and antibiotic Clavim by Alchem. All of these were found not to be of standard quality in certain batches only. Companies such as Sun and Glenmark, in response as per reports, have said that these particular batches were spurious and not manufactured by them. Drug regulators, remember, have stepped up vigilance by carrying out random sampling and tests and alerting authorities on any violation of good manufacturing practices. Also, experts point out any specific drug batch of a particular drug does not meet standards, does not mean that all the drugs being sold by the company are substandard.
All right, Ekta, many thanks for joining us. Now, Malaysia-based global healthcare major IHH Healthcare, the largest stakeholder in Fortis Healthcare, has plans to increase its shareholding to acquire a controlling stake. In a conversation with Ekta, Group CEO Prem Kumar Nair hinted at sweetening the open offer price. He said that most issues with the open offer have been resolved, hopes that the court proceedings will wrap in the next 6 to 12 months.
I would say a lot of the issues have been resolved, right? And this is probably the last final matter, the forensic by Delhi High Court, which is ongoing now. All right, I won't comment on it, right, because it is going through the courts at the moment, and we anticipate that once it is resolved, we let the court process, go through its, usual route. We will, and then we'll have to decide what to do next. The open offer was at $170. Fortis today is at 600 plus, all right? So we will have to make a decision on how we move forward. There are many ways in which we can increase our stake, as you know, all right? But one thing's for sure, we will be staying in India and we will be staying with Fortis.
So there's no chance of selling out that 31% stake?
Absolutely not, all right? We have got Fortis, we've got Gleneagles, we've got twin engines of growth in India, and given the attractiveness of the Indian private healthcare market, we intend to stay and grow in India.
But what do you think about this long journey of litigations, which is still not over at this point in time? Was there a time where IHH rethought its decision of acquiring Fortis?
Well, to be very honest, I think there were times when we were wondering what we got into, right? But over the years, most of the matters have progressed and resolved one by one. There were several matters going on at the same time, right? So most of them have been resolved, right? And I think we feel, right? I don't want to judge what's going to happen, but we feel that we are at the tail end of this matter, all right? And we really will have a chance to go ahead, all right? Both with Fortis and with Gleneagles, all right? And increase our presence in India.
So when do you expect to hear back on the open offer?
No, can't predict that for the moment.
Probably by the end of this year
Hopefully,
or next year?
6 months to a year, hopefully.
Well, you can catch that conversation on our special show, The Medicine Box, at 4:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV 18. We will head into a break, but up next, Amazon's Chief Technology Officer Werner Vogel says the company will not be baited into entering the race over generative AI. That and more when we get back. Amazon's Chief Technology Officer Werner Vogel says the company will not be baited into entering what he called the race over generative AI. Speaking to my colleague Ashmit Kumar, Vogel's called large language models like ChatGPT inefficient and argued for more targeted AI spending. He also supported encrypting content online without providing backdoors to the government. He said, and I quote, "Dance like no one is watching and encrypt like everyone is," end of quote. Here's the Amazon Global CTO.
We've been a long-time player in the AI world, but we don't play in the same world as some of these other large companies that you've heard from, because we're a business-to-business company. Yeah? We build technology such that our customers can build these chatbots or these AI interfaces, or use AI for their systems. And as such, we play a very different role in it. We don't play this role open outside in the media with this one model over that one model over that one model. We are really concerned much more about security, about safety, about putting guardrails in place such that these models don't generate data that you cannot rely on. I believe backdoors will render encryption unusable or ineffective. Let's put it like that. If one group has access to a backdoor, then others will gain access to that as well. We know that from the past. But I do not think there's anything wrong with asking customers for their keys as the government. Yeah, after all, we have strict legal guidelines in place. It is like, what was it? Dance like nobody is watching, encrypt as if everyone is.
And you can catch that conversation with Werner Vogels, the global CTO at Amazon, at Tech at Work at 5:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV 18. That is it on this edition of Business 360. The news will continue right here on CNBC TV 18. For now, from all of us here on the team, goodbye and many thanks for watching.